And welcome to another tropical update from Cayman Hurricane Center. And folks, we are continuing to monitor Oscar. Oscar having uh, provided very torrential downpours over Cuba, absolutely flooding out portions of Cuba there. Of course, damages there in areas near Baracoa um, where Oscar made landfall, quite significant damages there. But Oscar has weakened quite tremendously since its landfall. And again, we'll continue to watch this. At this point in time, honestly, it's so weak. I'm honestly surprised we're still even calling this a tropical storm at this point. But let's get into it. Let's discuss and what we're seeing at this point in time. So, folks, here is the wide shot here, just as the sun settled over the western portions of the Atlantic Basin. And we could see, a very disorganized Oscar now, very much a bit of a far cry from what we saw earlier when Oscar was making landfall. Definitely the heavier terrain over southeastern Cuba has significantly disturbed the low level circulation of this. And at this point in time, it's hard to even tell if we even have a proper low level circulation. It does appear that we do have a mid level circulation still that is still quite kicking, and we could see it work its way down to the surface and again potentially allow for this to kick up back again. But again, right now, regardless of its organization, it's still causing some significant amount of rainfall there for Cuba, and already certainly not what Cuba needs at this point in time. Already some impacts there continuing back over the Bahamas as well. We'll get into the finer details here of our system. So, again, getting down and looking at the zoomed up image here, what we're really seeing, folks, is that we don't really see much in the way of a proper closed circulation at this point. Again, we're seeing what looks to be more like a trough on the limited surface observations that we can get from Cuba. There is some winds that are sort of coming in like so. Rather, we change that here, folks, back to the usual marker that we usually do. Um, so again, we do have again that sort of flow coming up through here, and we do see a bit of a flow kind of coming into here, but not really seeing too much. Mid-level circulation wise, we can kind of see that coming in through here, just off of Cuba now. Again, very disorganized. The mountains of Cuba has really messed around with this. Where what we did have is a center that came in through the Bahamas, Great Inagua Island, made landfall in the southeastern tip of Cuba. There's even some suggestions here that we could have even seen the circulation coming offshore here, or may have reorganized a little bit more further up. But what we did eventually have with our track, though, is a system coming in and eventually just weakening, stalling out here before sort of lifting up. And at this point in time, where we have our system, as of the advisory anyway, 21.4, 75.7, about 145 east of Camagüey, Cuba, about 140 miles south southwest of Long Island, Bahamas. Again, the winds are being maintained at 40 miles per hour, and I'll say that on surface observations, we're not really seeing any tropical storm force winds. We are seeing a few areas of tropical storm force gust, but no sustained winds at this point of that. The movement again is more or less following the mid-level circulation at this point, and that is off towards the northeast at this point in time. At about 7 miles per hour. Pressures in the area being recorded, estimated around 1,005 millibars. Again, we are a little bit limited on surface observations in the area. But with that being said, what we are likely to see here is that if we could get a bit more of that convective thunderstorm activity to build within and around the mid-level spin, we could see this work down to the surface and allow for the system to potentially go on as a tropical storm, maybe even intensify slightly before this thing races off towards the northeast. Again, we do have the tropical storm warnings issued for the Bahamas still. And of course, we still have that up for Cuba for any of those tropical storm force gusts. So just to sort of take a look at how this looks at this point in time, folks. Again, this is the forecast here. And again, just quickly running through where we do have those watches and warnings. Again, the Cuban provinces of Las Tunas, Holguin, and Guantanamo to Punta Masi. So again, the whole southeastern coast here of Cuba. We're also seeing that again for southeastern and central Bahamas here. We're seeing those tropical storm warnings being issued for here. Again, we are expecting now that the system will be moving at a bit more of a quicker pace off towards the northeast. We may see some impacts here for Bermuda, but again, by this time, we are expecting this to be in the process of weakening, transitioning into a post-tropical system, getting entangled into a much more broader area of low pressure. And again, we'll be having those large fetch winds developing and large seas developing with this area of low pressure that will develop with this system and again absorb Oscar as it pulls it out. Now, again, just a continuity of previous advisories, winds extending out about 90 miles from the center, predominantly on the eastern half of the system. And again, we'll continue to watch this. Now, again, just to note that if we do see some strengthening here, tropical storm conditions, mainly in gusts, are expected in the warned areas of eastern Cuba over the next few hours, and tropical storm conditions again possible there in the watch areas, in the warning areas rather, in the central and southeastern Bahamas tonight and Tuesday. Now, the biggest thing with this system here, folks, is the rainfall with this system, and we are looking at about 7 to 14 inches with the isolated amounts of 20 inches across eastern Cuba, especially the Sierra Maestra mountain range areas there. Rainfall will lead to significant and life-threatening flash flooding, along with mudslides. Already preliminary reports from Guantanamo are already seeing over 10 inches of rains in spots. Again, for southeastern Bahamas, we are looking at 3 to 5 inches with, you could see some locally higher amounts of 8. This could cause some localized flooding. So again, we'll be closely watching this as we go forwards again. And we do note that in terms of storm surge issues, coastal flooding issues, that will be receding and subsiding in the coming hours ahead for Cuba. We'll see some large, dangerous waves as we go through Tuesday for portions of the Bahamas. But again, we're not expecting any significant surge action there, as this will be a weakening storm. It'll strengthen slightly and then weaken as we get out through latter portions of Tuesday into Wednesday. So we're going to be watching